Welcome back, Cubs. Dire Wolf here, and today I just want to give you a few thoughts about the newest Milo controversy. There's two videos going around with Milo giving interviews, one of them being up to a year old. And I'm going to talk to you about the content of these videos, but before we do that, I want to tell you why they're being released now. Because the reason we're talking about these videos is almost as important as the content of the videos. Milo Yiannopoulos has been chosen to speak at CPAC, and there's people on both the left and the right that don't want to give him this platform. The left hate him because he's such an effective speaker with so much charisma that he actually brings a lot of people over to his point of view. They call him a sexist, racist, homophobe, Islamophobe, and it all doesn't work. They've tried to slander him and they've tried to deplatform him, and neither has worked. In fact, they've only made him more popular. They're desperate to find something that will stick, and I'm not going to say that Milo is perfect or that he's a saint, but he's definitely not what they make him out to be. And some conservatives hate him, particularly a lot of religious conservatives hate him because they feel that he doesn't represent them as conservatives or Republicans, which is the same reason why they hate Trump. Not to say that all religious people on the right are against Trump and Milo. However, Glenn Beck is a great example of someone who's on the religious right who he and his audience tend to be against both Trump and Milo. So we're being reminded of these videos again, these interviews again, a year later, because these groups want to deplatform Milo from talking at CPAC, and also for the left who want to discredit him. These are the motives behind why we're talking about these videos now. That's important to note. In these two videos, he's accused of supporting and protecting pedophiles. In the first video, the Joe Rogan interview, he states that a priest had sex with him when he was below the age of consent. He acknowledges that it was illegal, but he didn't feel like it was wrong or that he was raped, which is a common response to young adults who have sex with adults. At that age, they don't feel like they're out of control or that they're being attacked. Often they have a relationship with that person, and even though it's legally and morally wrong for that adult to have sex with them, they don't feel like they're being attacked or abused. And even when they get older and know that it's wrong, they rationalize themselves that it wasn't wrong for them because they don't feel like they were hurt. Maybe they were asking for it. Maybe they tell themselves they were the aggressor. This rationalizing is a coping mechanism. Just the same way that adult rape victims who are raped by someone who is emotionally close to them often blame themselves than the person they love. In this video, he refused to name the priest, and I know a lot of people were upset by this because they're like, he could still be out there raping other young boys. And though I do prefer that Milo release the name of that priest, I understand why he won't. A lot of rape victims don't want to report a rape because they are afraid of the shame that will follow. And sometimes they're afraid to hurt a person they actually cared about, even if that person did rape them. I might not think these are very good reasons. However, in no other case of a rape victim refusing to report their rapist do we blame the victim. So why would we do it with Milo? Also, we don't know his exact age, or the age of the priest. They may have actually been very close in age. However, regardless of age, we're just working off the information we have, which is not very much, and prejudging the story with what information we have is silly. What information we do have is that Milo is a victim, and that it is wrong to try to force a victim to report their rapist, even though you'd wish they could, because it might be better for society, it might be worse for them. They might not want to deal with the shame, or they might be too afraid to do so, and that's their choice. And his unwillingness to report his own rape does not discount or discredit any of the things he's said in the past. The next point made in the Joe Rogan interview video was that he'd been invited to some parties with some rich and powerful people. And at these parties, they had sex with very young-looking men, which he referred to as boys. He clarified this later as meaning young adults. In the video, though, it seemed implied that they may have been underage. What was clear was he was assuming and did not know for sure. Here's my opinion on this. If they were underage, and Milo knew, he should report it. I understand why he might not. If these are rich and powerful people, they have the power to crush him, destroy his life, slander him, make him lose his job, and everything he owns. He may not want to accuse rich and powerful, well-connected people of things he's not sure of. However, if he does know for sure that they were having sex with underage boys, I believe the only moral thing to do will be to report it. If and only if he's absolutely positive that a crime has been committed, not reporting it would show cowardice and misplaced loyalties, in my opinion. Yes, I understand why he might be afraid of powerful, well-connected people who, if he tried to report, could destroy him. And yes, I understand why he might show some loyalty to these people if they had used their power and influence to help him get to where he is now, but those are not good excuses to not report such a crime. However, we don't have sufficient evidence to say this crime did happen. And we also don't have sufficient evidence to say that Milo supports sex with children. In fact, we have contradictory statements that he's made in the past and since this time where he says he believes the age of consent is correct and he doesn't support having sex with people below that age. And again, him not willing to make accusations against people he's not sure have committed a crime does not in any way discount his opinion or discredit him. I did not like what he said the first time when I first heard it when the video first came out. out, and I don't like them now. I think he should report anyone who's guilty of having sex with children. However, I'm making this statement on the unfounded assumption that this actually happened. I don't have enough evidence to say for sure that it did happen. However, if it did, I think he'd be wrong to not share the names of the people who committed the crime. However, let's bring this back to the original motive for why these videos have been brought up again. This is in no way a reason for him not to speak at CPAC. This is in no way a reason that we should not listen to his other opinions. And this in no way validates the claims from the regressive left that he's a racist, a sexist, homophobe, or any of the other slurs they throw at him. The regressive left and the third-wave feminists who support normalizing pedophilia and support Lena Dunham, who abuse her sibling sexually, do not care about protecting children. They just want to seize on any opportunity to knock Milo Yiannopoulos down a peg. I'm not surprised by the regressive left. However, I am somewhat frustrated and surprised that they found themselves unlikely allies with some members of the religious right. In general, the majority of the religious right do fight on the same side against social justice and against the regressive left. And I believe most of them believe in personal accountability and personal freedom. I think if you are on the religious right and you find yourself on the same side of an argument with social justice and third-wave feminists, you might want to rethink your position. Anyone who finds himself on the same side of an argument with people who use violence to silence dissent should take a long, hard look at themselves and see what are they really fighting for. I disagree with a lot of things Milo said. In fact, I disagree with a lot of things skeptics online say. However, he is not the monster they're trying to paint him as. He hasn't committed any crimes, and he hasn't hurt anybody. And yes, he hasn't made the best decisions every time in his life. However, I don't require that from someone. Everyone has skeletons in the closet. Everyone's made mistakes. No one is perfect. Everyone is capable of misspeaking and saying dumb things. The second video reference was from the Drunken Peasants livestream. In the cut-up version of this video, it sounds as though Milo is trying to justify adults having sex with teenage kids. Despite the fact he often attacks pedophiles, and in the same livestream, he says that he agrees with the current age for consent, and he says that it is correct. I do not believe there's a reason for him not to be able to speak at CPAC. I also believe it's no reason for him to lose his book deal. Both things happen. He's been disinvited from speaking at CPAC, and he's lost his $250,000 book deal. He also is facing possibly being fired from Breitbart. I believe that's unreasonable. However, I'm sure there's lots of regressives, SJWs, and online feminists, third-wave feminists, who are extremely happy to hear that. Here was Milo's response. I think you guys should all listen to it very carefully.
Hey guys, it's Milo here. You've probably seen by now reports and videos that allege that I'm some kind of apologist for pedophilia or some kind of enabler of child abuse. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I find those crimes to be absolutely disgusting. I find those people to be disgusting. And I think that my reporting on this speaks for itself. I've exposed 3 pedophiles in my career. One of them, Nicholas Nyberg, who was a anti-Gamergate activist who supported white nationalism and described himself as a pedophile. Another was Luc Bozier, a London entrepreneur, former business partner of Louise Manch, who was caught asking for underage material online. And a third one, Chris Layden, is a London photographer who I exposed and who is about to start a rape trial as a result of my reporting. I've also, on many occasions, blisteringly criticized the left for its constant excuse-making over pedophilia. In particular, Salon, which publishes Todd Nickerson, a so-called virtuous pedophile, a guy who thinks that he's okay because although he's attracted to children, he doesn't actually do anything. I think my record speaks for itself, and the portions that were edited out of the videos that you've seen show, for instance, me saying that I agree with the current age of consent, that I support, I support the current age of consent, that it's, quote, about right, end quote. I think that people can put 2 and 2 together and work out why this video is coming out now, this stuff that's been on the internet for a really long time. I think people can understand, you know, obviously there's frustration from some bits of the Republican establishment, but I don't want to blame anyone because I said the things that you've seen, and some of them were very stupidly worded. Some of the wording that I used was dumb. And if I could go back, in most cases, You guys know, if I say something outrageous or offensive, in most cases my only regret is I didn't piss off more people. But in this case, if I could do it again, I wouldn't phrase things the same way, because it's led to confusions. For instance, I was told that one of the numbers that people are fixating on is 13, and the implication that I was advocating for sex between 13-year-olds. Well, the video that came out was edited to include a section where I said that consent was arbitrary and oppressive, but that was from a discussion about affirmative consent on college campuses. That was placed next to a section about 13-year-olds to make it look like I was saying that consent for 13-year-olds was arbitrary and oppressive, and that's not the case. When I spoke about relationships between older men and younger men, I used the word boys, and I shouldn't have done that. Gay people do say like boy and girl to mean people of consenting adults very often. Sometimes it's usually like the passive partner gets to is the boy. But I understand that straight people wouldn't necessarily know that, and so that I wouldn't do again. All I would reiterate is you guys know that I can make edgy jokes. You guys know that I can sometimes push the boundaries of acceptable humor. This is one of those cases in which I should have phrased things differently. And these videos from a year ago and a year and a half ago, late, boozy, long live streams, I phrased things poorly. And I enabled my detractors and critics to assemble material that looked very damning, but which does not reflect my opinions. So for that, I'm sorry, because I know that a lot of you are out there defending me and wondering how to do that, because the material does look so unpleasant and distasteful. Another thing that looks unpleasant and distasteful about it is the tone in which I'm talking. I would just say this. This is something of which I was a victim. It's something that I lived through. It's something that happened to me. It didn't ruin my life. And the reason it didn't ruin my life is I had laughter and I had humor, and I was able to turn it into a joke, and I was able to brush it off and make jokes, make what would or obviously jokes, like getting head from a priest kind of jokes. You guys know that. I understand that a lot of 60-year-old journalists wouldn't, and would be very horrified by the tone, by the sort of apparently flippant tone that I was using. Again, speaking about this subject, I don't think anything should be off limits for humor, but I do regret some of the word choices. I have been uninvited from CPAC, which I'm disappointed with. The statement from CPAC said that there was a video in which I defended pedophilia. That simply isn't true. I didn't. It was not my intention. It wasn't what the words that I used meant. What I did do, and I stand by, because it's perfectly true, is say that in many, sorry, I have really bad flu, is say that in many gay relationships, well, for many young gay men, the first relationship they really have, the first long relationship they have, is with an older guy who perhaps takes care of them financially, takes care of them emotionally, and very often that can be a release. It can be an escape from an abusive or a uncaring or a difficult household. And if they're having problems at home with their mum and dad, very often kids of 17 will have relationships, for instance, with people of 29 years old. And that's what happened to me, and that's exactly the ages. I was 17 and he was 29. And it was a relationship that ended up lasting a decade. And that's where I was coming from, speaking about my own personal experiences of this stuff, saying that, of course this stuff happens and it's disgusting and I abhor it. Of course, any reasonable person would. It's revolting. And I can only say again, I find nothing but disgust, as my reporting record shows, for people who support and stick up for and make excuses for pedophiles. That is not what I intended to do in these conversations. And speaking from my own personal experience, all I was seeking to convey was that I had a relationship, I had an experience as a 17-year-old with a 29-year-old guy that turned into a 10-year relationship. I mean, my first real proper boyfriend was the guy I ended up being with for 10 years. I'm not with them anymore, but that's a sizable relationship, and not the sort of abusive caricature of older man kind of abusing and disposing of a younger boy. So I wanted to make some of that stuff clear. I'm going to attempt to reach out to some TV studios to get my point of view across, because it's very frustrating having the media repeat these allegations. It's very frustrating having so many people just blindly repeat things because they don't take the time to sort of see the nuance in the videos, or to appreciate that some of the one video, there was a unedited one, and I have to stand by my words, and I wouldn't phrase those things the same way twice maybe, but some of the same thing went on with the rest of the videos. To anyone who was upset by this, and anyone who has had their faith in me dented by this, I'm sorry. It's frustrating that CPAC has decided to yank my speaking slot because I won't get a chance to defend this on a, and put it to rest, because I really want to I want to move on with my life and get this, get this situation cleared up. So that's frustrating, but I understand why they had to do it. I do have some appearances that are going to be coming up over the next couple of days on TV, and one live one where I hope to be able to explain more fully, for those who want more granular detail, exactly what I meant by various remarks, and to make completely clear to those people who have pre-ordered my book, who are looking forward to reading Dangerous, which is going to be one of the big books of the decade, to people who enjoy my journalism, people who come to my college shows, to people who are people who are just Facebook Milo fans, that I in no way at any time condoned or intended to condone, it's not my meaning at all, child abuse, child sex abuse. And indeed, as a reminder, my entire journalistic career has been evidence of the opposite. I have outed 3 pedophiles myself in my own reporting, which is 3 more than most of my critics. And by the way, I was one of the first people to talk about Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile was a British entertainer, worked for the BBC. Everyone in media sort of knew that there was something not quite right about him. And when he died, I was maybe the first British journalist to ask whether some of the scandals were going to come out now, whether people were going to start being honest about what Jimmy Savile was up to. I was one of the first. So take that into account. I've done 4 really substantial, significant, gestures in my reporting career. And I hope that, with all of the expense and legal time and reporting time that it takes to report, for instance, on, the Gamergate feminist who turned out to be someone who had identified himself as a white nationalist and himself as a pedophile. The amount of time it takes to report and all that stuff, to check your facts, to get it through legal, the amount of resources I had to call on from my bosses. This is real stuff. It takes time, it takes effort, and that is a pretty strange way to proceed if you are somebody who turns a blind eye to pedophilia. So thanks for listening, and I hope that's cleared it up for you. I'll be back soon. All right, thanks guys.
Take a look at the evidence and the video linked in the description of this video, and watch the video. Listen to what he has said, and you will see he is not guilty of what he's being accused of. He may have said some foolish things, and said them in foolish ways, but he's not what they say he is. At least that's how I feel about it. What do you guys think? If you disagree, please let's discuss it in the comment section. I want to hear what you guys think. Direwolf out.